Hello and welcome to my channel, and welcome to Tag Tuesday, in which I discuss the alphabet soup book tag. A is for author. The original tag was created by Shawn, the book maniac, and I'll provide the link to his video in the show notes below. I was tagged by Brian at Bookish, and I'll also leave a link to his channel in the show notes below. A is for author. A good book by an author whose first name or last name starts with the letter A. This is my second script for this tag. I managed to overtype my first one, which is just as well, because for this first prompt I was going to be very boring and suggest that very obscure author that no one has ever heard of, whose name rhymes with an American city in Massachusetts. Extra points to you if you can guess the city and the author. Let me know in the comments below. So instead I've chosen Porridge, the inside story by Paul Ableman, who everybody has heard of course. Porridge is based on the screenplay by Dick Clement and Ian LaFrenne, the creators of the television series of the same name, starring the marvellous Ronnie Barker as Norman Stanley Fletcher, who's been sentenced to 5 years in slave prison, and these are his prison memoirs. They shouldn't be funny, but they are. They're also moving and touching, beguiling and hugely enjoyable. Here is the opening page. Hello, it's me, Norman Stanley Fletcher. Remember me? I'm the bloke with the funny diet. I only eat porridge. Of course, that's not true. Anyone who knows about the humane reforms that have transformed the British prison service in recent years will laugh like a cockroach at the notion that the cuisine we now enjoy in these palaces of recreation and culture, known as Her Majesty's Penal Correction Establishment, or something like that, is limited. And limited to porridge? Of course not. That went out with the treadmills. Now we get very nutritive goo of different colours that comes out of big hygienic drums. And just to make it more enjoyable, the Home Office has devised a list of attractive names for these tasty comestibles. Some of it is called meat. Other offerings are called fruit or vegetables. It all tastes the same, except when Lenny burns it or adds salt instead of sugar. But it's packed with vitamins and builds up our muscles for the tread. Oh no, of course, they went out. Didn't they? Where was I? Where indeed? Where I've been most of my life. In the nick? Rubbish. That's not true. It can't be true. Otherwise, how could I father 3 lovely kids and turned over half the small shops in North London? I must have spent some time on the outside. It just seems that I spent my whole life doing the bird. Lovely expression that, don't you think? Doing bird. Winging over hill or dale, free as the air. Oh, for the wings of a condor. A big South American bird, that is. The flight flies sideways in case it's being tailed by the law. If I had the wings of a condor, over these prison walls I would fly. Which prison walls? The ones that are presently incarcerating me and 600 other poor sods on the bleak Cumberland moors. Right in one, I refer to the grim, grey granite walls of slave prison. A is for, well, A. The last book you read with the article 1-letter word A in the title. I had to go back to October 2018 for this, when I read A Postillian Struck by Lightning, the first volume of Dirk Bogarde's memoirs, the first of 4 that I read between October 2018 and January 2019. In this first volume, Dick relates his idyllic childhood with his sister and his spell in the army. It is surprisingly entertaining, but not in a show biz way. A is for angry, a book that pissed you off. For this, I would like to say The Western Wing by Samantha Harvey, but as I've already slagged this book off enough, I'm going to say Imprimatur by Rinaldi and Sorti, of which I read 300 pages before giving it up in disgust. It was a real slog, with uninteresting main characters, a serving boy and a castrati abbot. It contained endless lists of food, drugs, and books with Latin names. It had boring, pointless, and repetitious underground explorations and meetings with revoltingly described grave robbers. The prose was turgid and tedious, and the story was preposterous. Yes, it pissed me off that I had wasted my time by reading 300 pages of this drivel. A is for awesome, a top read of recent years. For this I go back to November 2018 when I read the Belton Estate by Anthony Trollope, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was delightful from beginning to end. Of course, I love all of Trollope's works, but this one especially delighted me. A is for a book whose title includes at least 3 A's. In December 2018, I read The Star of Lancaster by Jean Plaidy, another excellent historical novel in her Plantagenet series. This one was about Henry V, the hero of A for Agincourt. A is for annoying, a character that drove you up the wall. In February this year, I read King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard, about Alan Quatermain, the supposedly great white hunter. I found him and the book preposterous, dated, and long-winded. A is for ambivalent, a book you're still not sure how you feel about it. In March I read The Jewel in the Crown by Paul Scott, and it left me feeling uncertain. It was dense, slow, multi-layered, and told through flashbacks, flash-forwards, and through characters commenting on other characters, so it lacked forward narrative flow. None of the action or the dialogues were happening in the present tense, so after I'd finished it I felt ambivalent, not really sure whether I had enjoyed it or not. Now I have read the second novel of the Raj Quartet, The Day of the Scorpion, which is told in a straightforward narrative style in the present tense, so I enjoyed it more, and it also gave me a greater appreciation of what Paul Scott had achieved in The Jewel in the Crown. A is for anticipation, a book that you're very much looking forward to reading. For this I've chosen Autumn by Alias Smith. I've heard so much about Alias Smith, and I was recommended to read Autumn as the best place to start with her seasonal quartet. I have this book on my local library list and will schedule it to be read early in 2020. A is for Actually, a book you didn't expect to like but did. For this I've chosen The Woman in the Dunes by Kobo or Arby. This is a strange story of a man trapped in a house with a woman whose life is dedicated to removing sand from the hollow in which she lives. It is a surreal story in which, while not a lot happens, the story is nevertheless suspenseful, and it has a surprising and unexpected ending. I was surprised that I enjoyed this story by a Japanese author. A is for Affected, a character, book or writer you feel is pretentious. I'm afraid that the Western Wind wins this prize hands down. Enough said. A is for How's It Going, eh? A book you liked by a Canadian writer or one you want to read. I once tried reading a book by a famous Canadian author and I didn't like it, so I recycled it. However, I did have another hardback book by this author. I ordered a second-hand biography of another author from the internet and it came in a very sorry state. The boards were actually mouldy and smelly, and after I complained to the seller, they refunded my money and told me to keep the book. Well, being an economical soul, I decided to rescue the heart of the book. So I tore the book out of its covers and threw the boards away. Now I needed some boards, and I thought I would use the Canadian author's boards for my biography. so I tore the book out of its binding. It so happened that the book had a very nice dust jacket, and I put it back on my bookshelves. Now, I had two books with the same name, but one of them was a biography of another author. One day I idly picked up the Canadian author, now transformed into a paperback, and began reading it. And I was enthralled. I was amazed at how good this writer was, and how much I absolutely loved the story she had to tell. So this was how I came to read Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. Brilliant book. A is for anticlimactic, a book you thought fizzled out at the end. Many years ago I read Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis de Bernieres. The novel was extremely well written and I thoroughly enjoyed it, right up till the end, when de Bernieres decided that instead of the obviously happy ending that the novel ought to have had, he provided instead a disappointing ending. I took it to my local second-hand bookshop, and the owner was delighted to have it because he wanted to read it. I bought something else. I've never read anything else by de Bernieres because he disappointed my expectations with Captain Corelli's Mandolin. A is for all the booktubers. For this prompt, see the card at the end of the video, which includes you. And if you're a new subscriber or visitor to this channel, you're going to want to watch some of the other tags I have created on this channel, like those in the info cards above.